everybody. I think we are going to go ahead and get started. You might be able to see me there at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. My name is Corwin Thompson, and I am one of the lead marketing specialists here at Monogram. We're so happy to have you all here joining us today. I am going to kick this meeting off with some history of our brand and some of the other GE House of Brands. If you're with us on Tuesday, it might be a little bit repetitive, but some good information nonetheless. Then I'm going to go over how to use this meeting platform, Microsoft Teams, because I know it's new to some of you. And then I'll turn it over to our executive chef, John, and our special guest, Michelle Abel, who's joining us from Kentucky. So we'll begin here, maybe. All right, I have to unshare my screen here. Sorry, everybody. Sometimes my PowerPoints don't like to be shared. So I'm going to go ahead and I know it's not in presentation mode, but I'm going to go from here. Sorry, everybody, it's a little small, but this will have to do. Okay, so on to the next. Many of you know that Monogram is the top of the line, most elevated product from GE. What you may not know is the rich heritage of appliance manufacturing and innovations that have come out of GE for the past over 100 years. That being said, I love showing this amazing graphic, which shows all of the appliance innovations that have come from GE since 1902. There are 55 innovations listed here, 22 of which are Monogram firsts. You can see some highlights in bold. For example, oh, I'm not showing my screen, am I? Okay, sorry, I can't see anyone. Okay, here we go. So, sorry about that. You can see some highlights here in bold, which are Monogram firsts. For example, in 1987, the first complete line of premium built appliances for custom kitchens came out. And then in 1999, GE created the Advantium speed cooking, which is the technology we use in our 5-in-1 ovens, which you all will see today. Then, let's see here, in 2016, we were the first Wi-Fi integrated appliances that have now become almost commonplace in the industry. Okay, and not just Monogram, but the GE Appliances House of Brands carry a legacy of durability and craftsmanship that you can see right here. To summarize what our House of Brands have to offer, Monogram is our luxury line focused on materials, performance, and ownership. Cafe is all about making your appliance personal. They are distinct by design, giving you the ability to interchange handles and knobs with different finishes to match your aesthetics. GE Profile is the line with the GE namesake, where we started our innovations over 100 years ago. Hire is born for the city. Hire appliances bring the energy of the city to your kitchen, big or small. Choose your size and explore our appliance suites. And last but not least, we have Hotpoint. Hotpoint is our entry-level appliances, which are used in a lot of apartments and house flips as well. All right, so here's some really important info for you all to get the most out of our meeting today. On your screen, you're going to see a toolbar kind of in the middle towards the bottom. You're going to have your video camera icon. Feel free to turn on your video and join us if you'd like. If not, we totally understand. Next to that is going to be your microphone. We ask that when you aren't actively participating, please mute your mic so everybody can hear the presentation clearly. But please, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to unmute and participate with us. A couple of other ways you can participate are the raise your hand feature. So if you don't know when to ask a question or comment, you can always click the hand and we can see in the participants list who's raised their hand and we can call on them. Next to that is going to be the chat box. This is really great. We've already started some conversations about where people are from in the chat box. Use the chat box to ask questions, comment. We love to hear from you. We'll also be sharing Chef John's recipe in the chat box, so that's a really great place to check throughout the presentation. Next to that on the right is the participants button. You're going to press that and you can see everybody, not only everybody who's participating, but there's a really important thing that we need you all to do, which is pin our presenters, which are Chef John, his last name is Liddell, and our other presenter, Michelle Abel. You're going to want to pin them so you can get both of their videos in full screen. So what you're going to do is click the participants button. You're going to look to the right. You're going to see John Liddell's name. Hover your mouse over the 3 dots to the right of his name and click pin. You're going to want to do the same for Michelle Abel. That way we're going to see both presenters in big screen during the whole presentation. And of course, if you have any questions on that or anything else, you can utilize the chat box feature that's right next to the participants button. Okay, I think that is going to be all from me. And I can hand it over to Chef John and Michelle Abel. Hey guys.
Hi there.
Hey Corwin, how are you? I think we're going to start with you. Good. Michelle, I think we're going to start with you on our topic of 5-in-1 ovens and everything that they are. I want to know just a little bit more about you first. So if you could give us some of your background and why you are like the expert when it comes to many Monogram products, but of course the 5-in-1 oven. So please, Michelle, thank you and take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Justin. I am really happy to be here today, and I appreciate you guys asking me to be a special guest. What a privilege, right? I will say that if anybody on the call today knows me for longer than 5 minutes, you know that the 5-in-1 is my absolute favorite product. And I am a huge advocate, and I am always trying to get them into anybody's home. I talked a friend into buying one in the last month. I'm excited. All right. So who am I? I am the learning manager at the Monogram Experience Center, and I have been teaching about Monogram for about 13 years. I have been with GE Appliances longer than that though, right? About 23 years or so. And I have been around since Speed Cooking first launched. And I was actually a trainer back for Core Product back when it first launched, and I got to go out and teach the world about the original, we called it Advanium. And back then we simply used halogen and microwave, and it was pretty cool technology. So I've been teaching about speed cooking for over 20 years now, which is pretty cool. And I will say that my husband and I finally broke down and bought our first Advanium just 8 years ago. I know that sounds crazy. I kept waiting for someone to give it to me. All right. So we finally broke down and bought our first one about 8 years ago. And when we did, we had a completely different home. Since then, we've ripped out all the walls. But at the time, when we bought that one, we bought the over the range because that was the situation in the kitchen at the time. And then we decided a year later to rip out all the walls and expand our kitchen out. So we bought a built-in one, which you would see here, except for finally I got somebody to give me one to test. So in the last 8 years, I have actually owned 3 Advaniums. I have one in the basement right now, the one that we bought, and now I have the one that we're testing currently for the product team here. And it is truly my absolute favorite product. I couldn't live without it. So that's a little bit of background. By the way, where do I get my knowledge? I typically teach a 3-day learning experience in Louisville, Kentucky for customers and designers and architects. Mostly we cater to the salespeople, the sales force out there. And when I'm not doing that, when we're not doing the 3-day experience, I'm actually hanging in the cooking test labs and hanging out with the engineers that build the product and talking to John and our chefs, Joe and Brian, learning cooking skills from them. So learning everything I need to know in order to use the product and be able to speak to it when it comes to cooking, because John has the background in cooking. I know how the technology works. So that's me. And thanks for being here to talk about 5-in-1 for us. Hopefully after today, you all go get one.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping. Thank you so much, Michelle. And again, thank you for being here. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Chef John. I'm usually downtown Chicago, working at our Monogram Design Center. Today, we're stuck up in Michigan again, hosting you guys. Glad to see everybody on the call. I'm really looking forward to this 5-in-1 topic conversation. I know there is just a wealth of knowledge that Michelle brings to the table, and I think you all will be able to really take away some very good points. Michelle was, like we said, is our expert, but she was the one that, when I was coming on board at Monogram, was kind enough to take me under her wing and say, whatever you need, let me teach you about this, let me teach you about that, the ins and outs, to make sure I knew how important it was to understand this single piece. Because what I came to realize after all that training, and now maybe 6-7 years down the road, that a lot of folks, the 5-in-1 oven, the rest of the kitchen is designed around it. You just can't get rid of this piece. If they've owned it before, they come back, hey, John, it's been 10, 15 years since I've redone my kitchen. I want to do it all again, but we have to start with the 5-in-1. So I've really come to love it, but I have to say, through the last 7 years, or 7 years ago, it was the one piece that I thought might keep me from becoming a Monogram chef. Because I never set out into this culinary world to be the best microwave chef in the world. I didn't work with chosen restaurants, chosen chefs. And then folks that were younger than me that trained under me, they didn't work with me to learn microwave skills, right? So at some point when I was coming on board with Monogram, I said, you guys have interviewed me enough. Can I interview your appliances a little bit more? And the only one I really needed to interview was the Advantium at the time, now the 5-in-1 speed oven. And they sent me out to New York, and I spent about 6 hours with it. And within the first hour, I said, oh my gosh, this is not like some microwave tool. This is a chef's tool that can bring everything to the table and really elevate and enhance your home kitchen and what you're able to do with it within that tiny little cubic foot of space it takes up in your cabinetry. So, with Monogram giving me the flexibility to discover this product on my own, not just tell me about it. They said, here, show yourself. Let us show you some more things it can do. And I quickly fell in love with it. Now I know, like I said, it's a true asset to any chef in any kitchen at any level. And I do believe that it's the smallest large appliance in the kitchen. And Michelle, tell me if I'm wrong, the smallest large appliance in the kitchen with more functionality than any other. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you guys will see that through our conversations today at exactly what the 5-in-1 oven is. From a chef standpoint, though, just to share a little bit more, I do believe this is the most controllable oven in the industry as well. And we're going to show you guys that because all of those heating elements we use are controllable like by 10% increments. So now I can turn top and bottom elements, back elements, however I want them at whatever percentage to affect my food the way the chef wants. Now, when we get into this, we're going to spend just a little bit of time looking at that baked ricotta recipe, right? I wrote this recipe because, we've got this whole bread phenomenon going on, right? Everybody, I used to say 0.5% of folks that come into our showroom that say they bake bread actually do. They bake it, once a year. You're not a bread baker. But now today, everybody's like, fresh bread. We're going to hopefully go out and eat at our favorite restaurants, new restaurants, and we're going to demand that single product, right? Bread. Fresh bread. Don't give me anything par baked, none of that processed junk. That's not what we're here for. The Advantium is about speed, not about just process. So what I created was this baked ricotta to go with that bread, because the other phenomenon is, your fresh mozzarella, your burratas, your baked bries, all of these cheeses, these artisan cheeses are coming back too. So this simple recipe we're going to show you is meant to be thrown together very quickly, but make a statement on the other trend, the charcuterie board. You can buy all those other cheeses, but why not make one thing of your own that you pop out of a ramekin, put on the board and go, oh yeah, well, that's the one I did. Or very simply put together and take it over, hopefully take it over to a friend's get together soon. So guys, we're gonna share that recipe. I know it's in the chat box with you. I know we probably emailed it out before. What you don't know is that Michelle has never made this recipe. Okay, I sent her the ingredient list. She picked it up. She didn't even really know what direction she was going to go with it or what we were doing. I said, hey, grab a couple of ramekins, and then we're going to do like a talking recipe. One of my favorite things to do is a talking recipe where I can just really tell you what's going into it. So Michelle, we're going to do this baked ricotta, and I think I asked you to whip up an egg, not to be pushy in front of everybody, but I hope you did.
And the egg.
Perfect. So what we want to do is take that one whipped egg, and if you wanted to make this a little less airy or lighter, you could just use the yolk. So that would be a choice, or maybe just the whites if you're like, hey, cholesterol, John, let's cut it down. I go with the whole thing. So dump that whole thing into your ricotta there. And then on the recipe, it says like any grated or crumbled cheese. Well, what kind of recipe says use whatever you want? Well, recipes are meant to use whatever you want. You guys, how many recipes have you made in the last 3 months where you had every single ingredient? Probably not many, besides bread. The other one is we substituted a lot of those ingredients and we found success. And we may have found something that we like even more. So any grated cheese you want, what do you have there? Cheddar, Parmesan?
Parmesan.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Dump that in there too. About a quarter cup of that. A little minced garlic.
Okay.
Do you mince your own garlic or do you buy your garlic minced? I mean, this is a really pressing question.
I buy it minced. I do.
Okay.
I grow it in the garden, but it's mostly for effect.
All right. Just one little check mark on your sous chef sheet there for your review. All right. Now I have chives and oregano. Is that okay? Do you have any of that?
Okay, I do not have oregano. I went out back this morning to see what was ready in the garden. So I had some basil and some lemon thyme. I did have chives in the garden, so I have that.
Show off. Yeah, I think you're going to be fine there. Of course. That's another one of those things on this recipe, Michelle, where, you want to add cracked red pepper. You want to put, I don't know, Tabasco in there, make it real spicy, chopped up jalapenos, anything you want, just start putting in this. This is kind of like that base recipe, and then just go crazy from there. All right, so you've got that in. Now give it all a good mix up, just incorporate it nicely.
My kitchen smells amazing, by the way. When my family comes home, they're going to be like, who lives here?
You're like, you guys do, but this is not your snack.
Exactly. I'm hoping they get home after lunch.
All right, Michelle. So what you're going to do is you can put that into one ramekin and bake one at a time. You could put it into two and bake two at a time. I also take this and sometimes double the batch and take ramekins and fill them to the top and then wrap them in plastic wrap. And I'll even freeze this. And when I come home from, wherever you might be, work, restaurant, bar, soccer practice, you pull one out and stick it in the 5-in-1 oven, and we're going to speed cook this ricotta. So once you get it mixed up into the ramekins, it'll go. Did you have a question?
Yes. Do I spray the ramekins?
That's always a good idea. Yeah. I don't spray it if I'm going to eat right out of the dish, but if I want to pop it out after it's cooled off, I make sure I spray it.
And by the way, John, I love the freeze idea. I do a lot of food prep and freezing just because we don't have a lot of time to cook around here. Yeah. So anything you can tell me to double a batch on and freeze it so a month later I can pull it out and serve it, I love that.
I do too. And Michelle, can I confess something to you and everyone else here?
What?
Well, I know we both have gardens, right? You are far more advanced than I am. I'm lucky if I can grow weeds most of the time, but I occasionally get a few things, but I increase my garden size. I know one time in the past, it wasn't even that long ago, I gave you a hard time about something, and that was your frozen veggies. Yeah. And I felt bad about it ever since then. And I feel even worse today because after the last few months of having to stock my freezer with individually quick frozen vegetables and make sure I'm getting nutrition and all of that, boy, I've really found that I can absolutely make a great frozen vegetable. Totally enjoyable, crunchy. I think maybe my mind was back when I was a kid and our frozen vegetables were probably a little different back then.
Yeah.
So I apologize about that, but now I plan on flash freezing more of my homegrown produce to utilize. Do you utilize your 5-in-1 for your frozen veggies too?
Oh yeah, listen, I steam broccoli in my 5-in-1 at least once a week. Steamed
So
carrots in there. I do all my vegetables in here just because it's quick and easy. So the only thing I don't do, I'm going to tell you this, it's going to gross you out, John. My daughter's favorite vegetable, canned peas.
Say that again, canned
Vegetable we
peas?
don't. Yes, I know.
Okay, hey, as long as she's eating them veggies, right?
It's green. She'll eat broccoli out of here. She'll eat asparagus out of here. She loves roasted sweet potatoes out of here. But every once in a while, I just got to bust open a can of peas.
Is that one of those things that skips a generation? You know?
I hope so.
So funny. All right,
Okay.
so let's get back to the recipe here. Wait, what do you have there? You've been working ahead.
I was making toast so I could actually eat this when we're done. So I got some toast ready. Yeah.
Cool.
It is store-bought bread, but it's from the bakery in the grocery. Okay, not from the bread aisle.
Set that aside and then go ahead and put another tray in there. Because the 5-in-1 comes with all different types of baking trays for whatever we're going to do. So that's a nice flat baking tray. A couple of ramekins in there. Yeah. So guys, what we're going to do is a custom speed cook recipe. We're going to spend just another couple of minutes on speed cooking and focus on everything else. But with speed cooking, it allows us to utilize every single heating element or not at different percentages to cook any food product perfectly. But we cook it 4 to 8 times faster than a normal oven cooks by skipping the preheat time and having the possibility of using low level microwaves to warm our food from the inside, while bake, broil, and convection really do the heavy lifting, caramelize the food, render fats, and create the flavor. So Michelle, on our 5-in-1 oven here, we have the statement oven where you can see that edge-to-edge handle design. There's a little brass finish on there, but it has a custom section. So I can see you've already accessed that custom section. And if you want to set, what's the first choice we need to make?
So the first choice is the time.
Let's do 10 minutes.
Okay.
Michelle, I'm wondering if you could scoot the camera over a tad so we could see the full screen there.
Okay, tell me which way to go. How's that?
Yep, that's perfect. Thank you.
So 10 minutes, right, John?
Yeah, let's start with 10 minutes.
Okay. And then, so now you have one screen where you're going to select all the power levels you want. You used to have to turn the dial and go through a bunch of screens. Now it's on one.
So you lived with the Advantium with the dial versus this. This is what, a 7-inch LCD screen. Mm-hmm. How are you enjoying one more than the other?
I will say it took us a little bit of time to get used to, but this one is so much easier to customize, and the menus, the foods are placed in places that are a lot easier to find. So It was a little learning process. Took us about a month.
Yeah.
But this one's definitely easier, and it's got some better features on it. So
I agree. So my first setting I need you to set is it the upper?
It's the upper.
The upper I want to set at 10 or 100%. So guys, we have 10% increments from 0 being off, and then all the way up to 10, which is 100%. So we have 100% on the upper. The lower I'd like you to set at 100% as well.
Okay.
I want the microwave power barely on because I want caramelization, but a quick cook time. So just 10% on the microwave.
Okay.
If you guys aren't, if you weren't a microwave fan, yeah, that's your choice. That's cool, not a problem. You can leave the microwave off and just, add a few extra minutes of cook time. Now the convection fan there, we want to set to 80%.
I'm there.
Awesome. The graphics are great. I love the Audible, so go ahead and get it started for us.
Okay. By the way, after you hit set, it comes up and tells you which tray to use. And then it also shows you at the bottom what your settings are so that you can make sure you can double check.
That's so much more intuitive than the previous model. I love that.
Okay. And then you are going.
Awesome. So guys, as Michelle's baking that, I want you to see that that light came on. Now, that light isn't just because Chef John's food is so pretty. I mean, Michelle's food is so pretty. It's because we are actually using it to do the work. Speed cooking, I said we skip the preheat process. That's because with that 1500 watt halogen light shining down, it superheats the cavity of the oven. We go from room temperature all the way up to 450 degrees in a matter of about 4 minutes on our 240 volt model. So we, again, cook 4 to 8 times faster than a normal oven. For one reason, we skip the preheat process. While we're preheating or superheating, or while we're superheating that cavity, we're actually cooking the cheese. We're actually starting the caramelization process. If we have meats or proteins in there, we start the searing process on there and developing the flavor. And then we match that top heat with bottom heat. You see, we set the bake element at 100% as well, because we're going to use it, I think on this model, Michelle, ceramic bake element still.
Yes, we have the 2 halogens in the top. They're 1200 watts each. Then there's a ceramic in the bottom and convection with the fan in the back, and then still using microwave.
Perfect. Thank you for that correction. 2 1200 halogen watt bulbs there. 1200 watt halogen bulbs there, and then the bake element down below to kind of match that heat. It gives enough intense heat to force through the bake tray that we give you, get the heat into the ramekin, and start heating that cheese so it's cooking evenly from all the way around. Now, we also have a convection fan in the back. You guys, these principles we're talking about, that halogen light on top, that's our broil element. We talked about a bake element. The convection fan in the back now is going to circulate all of that heat that's already added to the cavity. We do that to keep things even and give you a little quicker cook time. But the point there is bake, broil, and convection, it's no different technology than we put in our big, large format ovens, be it in a range or in a wall oven. So we started this oven by making it a great first oven in my mind. Then we said, all right, microwave technology. Let's add that in on speed cooking, but not microwave food as fast as we can cook it. Let's cook food quickly without kind of getting rid of the farm to table aspects, nutritional aspects, visual aspects. You know, a rubbery chicken cooked in 2 minutes is no good in my life. If it's cooked in 10 minutes and is almost 99% spot on, then we start adding value. So that microwave comes on at 10% and warms our food from the inside out. It's still from the inside out, and we're kind of, identifying moisture molecules in there and warming those up. But at 10%, it's not really going to heat this food any more than about 125, 130 degrees. And Michelle, I know that because we put an egg in there, and I know what temperature egg overcooks at. And when this comes out, it's not. So I know we don't ever get above that internal temperature with the microwave. So right now, we're going to, I keep saying speed cook, but in this unit is called precision cook. We're precision cooking this bake 3. So Michelle, anything else to add on that, on the speed cooking side of things?
Just having the ability to customize the settings. Listen, this has over 175 pre-program options that you can go in and select from, because a lot of people aren't going to be as intuitive as you, John, when it comes to creating the custom ones. So we have a guide in here that'll show you what we recommend for the cooking times and temperatures and heating elements and all that. But you have the capability to go in and adjust them, which is what John did with the custom part. So if you want yours a little less done or a little more done when you're doing it, you can actually make adjustments to that. And I love that you can change the microwave, because a lot of people complain about microwaves ruining their food, and it's because they just cook on high all the time, and anything you cook on high all the time is not supposed to be. So with John adding the 10% in there to just help slowly give it a little boost without turning it to rubber, it's perfect, right? I don't think I cook tea on high and popcorn on high, but that's about the only thing I cook on high when it comes to microwave. So the fact that they thoughtfully are using it instead of just throwing it in there, that's pretty amazing. That's what makes it so incredible.
Yeah, I agree. That's where a lot of times microwaves get their bad rap from, because we don't say microwave it, right? We use some of those other nasty words like zap, nuke, and really those are created because microwaves at 100% overcook food. And it's not the microwave's fault, it's mine, because the unit is controllable, right? Just like my oven. I don't just turn it to 550 degrees and put my cookies in for 10 minutes and go, well, this is a bad cookie oven when they come out burnt. We adjust the temperature and the mode and everything. Our ovens get that benefit of the doubt, but the microwave, we go, shame on you. So I think that's kind of a good little segue into some of the other things that the 5-in-1 oven does, right? Because there is a laundry list. We stopped at calling this 5-in-1, but it's probably more like 12, 15 in one, really, with all the different modes that we can do. So why don't you first tell me a few of your favorite modes that you use in there and some other ways that you use your 5-in-1 oven?
Okay. We use it every day, by the way. I am fortunate enough to have a beautiful Pro range down the aisle, down the countertop at the other end. But when we were remodeling our kitchen a couple of years ago, I told my husband, this has to be in the main space. And he built our cabinets with his uncle. He actually had to build the cabinet right here because this is kind of where we live, because it is the product we turn on every day. And I actually turn this on first thing out of bed because the first thing I do is make tea in it. So I'm going to microwave in it very first. We use it to steam vegetables all the time, John. I steam frozen vegetables and I steam fresh vegetables in it. We do use it to heat up leftovers. We do use it to cook soups and things like that with using the microwave. But I think probably the other thing we use the most frequently is the toast function. Because my daughter likes to have a bagel in the morning or something, or toast with honey, things like that. So we also toast in it. The dogs are waking up. We also toast in it every single day. We've been using it a lot more since we've been home, a lot. My daughter loves to cook. She loves to bake. She loves to experiment. So she has been baking cupcakes in it. Because my Pro range takes about 13 or 14 minutes to preheat. And if I set this guy to 350 degrees, it takes it 5. So even if I'm just gonna bake in it, I'm not gonna turn on the big oven unless I'm doing big capacity. I turn on this oven. So when we're cooking here, I'm cooking for my husband, my daughter, myself, and sometimes my son and daughter-in-law. So we don't often need a lot of, sorry, the puppies just woke up. So we don't often need a lot of capacity. This guy will hold a typical 9x13 Pyrex dish. Yeah. So if I just want to bake something and not have speed in it, it does the job. So probably toast, bake, speed, and microwave are what we use the most. I'm not a big broiler, but I have turned on broil a couple of times recently, just playing around with it. I try to get a little creative in the kitchen sometimes. And then warm, we use warm all the time, the warm function, because my husband works for himself, and sometimes he gets home at 5 o'clock and sometimes he gets home at 7. So, right. I'm not going to hold dinner because I've got hangry eating popsicle after popsicle until I can get some good food in her. So we will sit down and cook dinner, and if he's not home, his plate ends up in here. We do Taco Tuesday at least every couple of weeks here. Where are we going to heat up the chips? We're going to put them in here and hold them warm for us because we like our chips warm. We use it when we're making waffles, because the waffle mix always makes more than the waffles that we need. So as I'm cooking and making waffles, I'm throwing them in here, because the cool thing about the warm function, you can set it to 3 different settings, and you can set it to be moist or crisp. If you've heard me say this before, there is a reason for that. Pancakes like a moist environment, waffles we prefer crisp. So you get to set it to the temperature you want to hold at, and you get to set it to like how you want it to feel in your mouth when you take it out too. So bake, broil, toast, warm, microwave. We do use the microwave quite a bit. When you were talking about the frozen vegetables, I steam vegetables in here all the time. And they did add a new steam function on here. Now, wow. It's not steamed, don't get me wrong. It's microwave, but they've added the perfect time. They've pre-programmed like for grains or for vegetables, and you can go in and select how much you're putting in and what kind of vegetable you're putting in. And then instead of you having to guess how much time it's gonna take, it sets the time for you. So that's actually been nice because I have been known to over steam things in here. So having it pre-programmed made it helpful.
No, that is helpful because, I don't eat a whole lot of steamed vegetables. It's just not in my chefiness. I like char and caramelization and all that fun stuff. But I understand it is probably better for me to eat them that way. So we have done a little bit of that steaming in the microwave per your your conversation with me. And yeah, it's just a great way to just keep the freshness of the vegetable too. So I love that they added that.
I will say, some of my favorite things to speed cook in here, roasted asparagus comes out perfect every time.
Yeah.
And we love roasted asparagus in here, and we love roasted cauliflower in here because it comes out just perfectly brown and soft in the middle because it has just a tad of the microwave to not destroy it.
Yeah. I'll add in Brussels sprouts in there too. I do little Brussels sprouts cut in half. And, if you take the time to take all the little leaves off of them and lay them out, you can make those crunchy Brussels sprout chips right in there. Michelle, peek at that ricotta and see if it's looking good. Does it look like it needs some more time?
I think it looks actually beautiful. So let me get my towel here.
Look at you.
It's bubbly underneath. It's still doing a little bit of bubbly underneath.
Oh, bravo.
And my daughter just got home, so she's going to be happy because now we have lunch.
Good. Okay. I love that. Guys, this is a simple recipe. You're going to love this dish.
By the way, John.
Yeah.
While we're talking about this, the one thing my boss always laughs at me, Belinda's always laughing at me because I'm always talking about toast, but that's something that people do in their homes all the time, right? Whether it's bagels or bread or whatever. So I did cut some really thin bread because I like it crispy when you have a dip like this. And I set it to the toast function and made some toast. So when it was time to eat, that probably next to speed is the one we use the absolute most to crisp things up.
Michelle, how long did that take, you think, for that toast?
I would say I like to heat up the 5-in-1 before I put the bread in there. So I usually let it heat up for about 3 or 4 minutes because we typically like it soft in the middle and crispy on the outside. And if you don't preheat it, it crisps all the way through, which is great. Some people like that way. But since we like it to keep that soft, so probably about 3 or 4 minutes to preheat it and just about 2 or 3 minutes to get the toast finished.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to elaborate, if you don't mind, on some of everything else that the 5-in-1 does, because it's like, a running commercial when you talk about the 5-in-1, because it's, and what else, and is it done yet? And we know it's so feature rich. We know that you may not use every feature in it, but you're going to find a good handful of them that really just make your life more simple, make your life easier, make other parts of your life more enjoyable, because the day you didn't really want to spend in the kitchen, now you don't have to. So really, when I think about the 5-in-1, it's a total tool of convenience. It has a ton of functionality that we simplify with that great LCD screen and 175 recipes. Without all of that, it could be a tool of confusion a little bit, but we give you everything you need to succeed in the kitchen with this. We often talk about our meals at home, and we think about the centerpiece of our meal. Where are we going to cook the chicken? What kind of pork are we going to have today? And how are we going to do that? But a lot of the times what shines on the dish are our side dishes too. And the fact that Michelle just named convection bake, broil, toast, microwave, proofing your bread in here, warming mode, precision cook. Now your side dishes are going to get better. Maybe you're not making the whole side dish in there, but you're just roasting or charring up some peppers to put on a salad, roasting some nuts to just put out in a bowl during the holidays. There's so many things that this 5-in-1 oven really acts like I call it my sous chef. I have an awful joke about it being my sous chef and nobody else is in the room, and it confuses people. But there's things I don't like to do. I like to eat asparagus. I don't like to cook it. I have made hundreds of thousands of sticks of asparagus, right? I don't run home to my wife and say, honey, I roasted asparagus at work today. Aren't I so great? No, we just don't do that. I used to be in a kitchen where you just hold out your hand and your sous chef puts it in there. Well, when I watch my wife cook at home, she's kind of the same. You know, she wants really good asparagus, but what she really wanted to make was the chicken in front of her. So to have the 5-in-1 behind her as her speed oven, she turns around, throws the asparagus in there, hits the asparagus button. It's a pre-programmed recipe. And now she enjoyed cooking her chicken that much more because she wasn't worried about the asparagus. So I look at this 5-in-1 and supporting so many other aspects of life, even grilling outdoors. You can make so much in the 5-in-1. I use it to make my potatoes for my potato salad. I don't boil them anymore. I just roast them, chop them up, and throw them in there. Everybody loves it. So it's a great way to utilize very small cutout in your kitchen. Other than that, you know, I heard you mention the 5-in-1 over the range setup you used to have, right? We're still making that, right?
So we do. We make the over the range in a 120. For a period of time, we made it in a 240. And here's the difference. 120 has half the power coming in, so half the speed coming out. 240, double the power, double the speed. But we weren't selling a lot of the 240s because typically when you go over the range, it's kind of like that half two. It's already, you know, got the power and all that. When we put it in, because my husband could, he ran a 240 line there. And the reason we didn't keep it is because we found that, well, we're not selling a lot, so we're not going to continue to make them. 120 is great, but I've been cooking in a 240 for 20 years. And I couldn't imagine going from a 240 to a 120 just because I've gotten so spoiled. If I'd never cooked in a 5-in-1, 120 is really great. My mother-in-law, we actually got her for her birthday a couple years ago, a 120, and she loves it. But she's never cooked in a 240 either. So she thinks it's an amazing piece of technology. And it took us about 2 months to actually get her to hit the speed button. But now that she's actually using it, she thinks it's an amazing product. So if you've never cooked at it, you have voltage problems where you can't get all the way up to 240. It's great. But since we could do 240, we went built it. And my husband had to build a special cabinet for us because we didn't have a cabinet and we didn't want to like make a whole wall for it. So they actually built a cabinet on top of our countertop there.
Nice. He sounds like a good guy. You should keep him around.
Sometimes. Kidding. He's great. And he's talented. So so we, in order to be able to make sure that we could keep the type of cooking that we were used to, we just designed our kitchen around it. And that's to the point of, we designed our kitchen around this. It had to be in the spot I wanted it, and it had to be the heat that I wanted. You can come over here. It's okay.
That's so cool. Thanks for sharing that, because I do really I've always loved that over the range 5-in-1 oven, because we've actually built it to go over our 30-inch statement range as well, where the ventilation is built into it. We changed the door swing so it has that microwave door swing, so you can access it. You know, even with a little less speed, what really intrigues me about that is, you know, all of the different apartments I've lived in and homes I've lived in with a 30-inch range, and you only have one oven, and eventually you run out of space, right? And you put that OTR over the range setup right above it. And now in a small space, you have a double oven, you have a warming drawer. It is just such a cool setup. So I urge people to look at that for themselves or their customers, definitely. I actually would love to put one in a small space I have, just because you can just do so much more with it. So
John, the reason we had the over the range to begin with is our home used to have a bunch of walls and a tiny kitchen. And when we knocked out a wall, we had more space to spread out. So that's totally why we went over the range. We didn't have a place to put it in the beginning, and over the range was perfect, and it worked great for us. And then we started knocking out walls, and they had more room. So
that's a great point, because I bet when you do that over the range in a smaller space, you all of a sudden you get more countertop space, more cabinetry space, and it's just a win all the way around. Cool. That's awesome.
Think about getting rid of the toaster oven. Think about not needing a warming drawer. Think about like all the different products. You can totally clear off your countertop, My daughter's asking me to heat up her cookies that I think she wants for lunch. Um, so just think about all those things. Like, you get so much countertop space back from being able to do everything in one product.
That's a great point. And the toaster setting, because we say toaster, but I don't know if folks really even understand that it's a toaster oven. Because Chef John doesn't have a problem with microwaves. Life moves fast. I eat my stuff. You put pizza in there for a minute, it comes out molten hot, and you eat it and you run down the road. But there's occasional nights where I come home from work where I've got more than 30 seconds to heat up my leftovers, and it might be steak fries. And maybe my boss Alex took me out for a really great fancy dinner when this is all over, and I've got some leftovers, and I can use my 5-in-1 as a toaster oven and bring back my French fries in a better way, maybe even those waffles. So that is awesome. I love that fact, because some families say, you know what, John, we're trying to stay away from microwaves. And, I wear a white coat, and I'm like, listen, I'm not a doctor, I'm a chef. You make your own decisions. I get that. That's totally cool. But with the 5-in-1, you never have to use it as a microwave if you don't want to, because all of the functionality like toast, broil, convection bake, warm, proof, there's no microwaves present at all. It's just normal oven functionality. There's only microwave and precision cook where there could be. So they find that this oven, I think, really fits the homes that they're building too, whether they're building them for a lifetime and they want their grandparents to come over and feel comfortable heating up their coffee or their tea in the morning, or they're building it to sell it in a couple of years and they want the next family to have a built-in microwave. I think the versatility just is even beyond the ownership, really.
Yep. Hey, John, by the way, with everybody eating bread today, you got to proof the yeast in order to get it to rise. I forgot about proof.
That's right. That's right. And guys, proofing is the step where it used to be, grandma took the yeast and water and put it in the warmest window in the house, right? And it got warm enough to cook. Proofing happens between 75 and 95 degrees. Well, we took that concept and just put it in the 5-in-1 oven and gave you a button. So now we basically created an environment that is the perfect place for that yeast to develop.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Now, Michelle, anything else you want to share?
Well, you did mention that it comes with the trays, and I told Alex we would make sure that we mentioned this, so I'm glad. Cool. It does come with the trays, and as you guys saw, it was telling us what tray to use when you were cooking. So I promised I would pull some of those trays out, and we actually built a drawer just below ours to hold our trays, because when you're microwaving, you're going to use a glass tray because it doesn't conduct heat and you won't get overcooking there. When you're grilling, you're going to use the grilling tray, right? So that you get the right grill marks and all that. We already used the other tray, and I have 2 of those, but they're both now somewhere else. And then, of course, it comes with this rack, because if you need to cook something that's bigger than the turntable has to turn when you speed cook. It has to turn because the halogen lights are over here. And if it doesn't turn, everything gets really cooked over here and nothing gets cooked over here, right? So when you're speed cooking and microwaving and broiling and toasting, anything that's using the halogen, you need it to rotate. But when we're baking in it, it doesn't necessarily have to rotate. So sometimes we will pull this tray out. Never try to do it on video. Sometimes we'll pull this tray out. And last week when my daughter was making cupcakes, we had 2 tins full of cupcakes that we were baking. We were able to put one on the bottom and one here. And if you're wanting to cook something that's too large to rotate on that turntable, if it fits on this tray, you just bake it, because the heat comes from the back and the fan's circulating it around. So there's a lot of flexibility in the size of the utensils and things that you can put in there as well. Listen, if I said it at the beginning, if you've known me more than 5 minutes, I am a huge advocate. I would not live without this guy.
You're on mute, John.
Thank you. So what would happen if you woke up tomorrow and your husband was like, you know what, I didn't like that, I got rid of it?
He wouldn't live here anymore. I mean, it's the first thing I turn on in the mornings. I come downstairs and I make my tea. I couldn't imagine, because I turn this on probably more than anything else in the kitchen. and I couldn't imagine living without it. I did a thing one day where we recorded every time we turned it on, and in one day I turned it on 9 times. And I did do a little bit of speed cooking, but I did some steaming. My daughter's favorite thing, it's her new thing. She wants to have a couple of cookies at night. So we just pull out the tray, we put a couple cookies on it. We make popcorn in here. We roast vegetables, we steam vegetables. I mean, we use it for microwave, we use it for toast, we use it for bake. My Pro range, it's beautiful. It does a great job at baking. But right now, I got to tell you, it's got some trays and things inside the oven. We use the top a lot, and this is what I use every day. I couldn't live without it, honestly.
Does your daughter, because she's like 10 or 11 now, I think, she's starting to use it or wanting to use it? And how do you feel about that? Is this the right product for her to start cooking with, you think?
Oh, it's totally the right product for her to cook in, because she can go to the pre-programmed menu item and find her foods. And I don't have to worry about her forgetting to turn it off, because if she's speed cooking, when it's done, it turns off. So that makes it easy. And yeah, she started using it. We did an Instagram video about that not too long ago. It's easy to program, but now they've added a couple of functions that make it even easier. You and I talked about this not too long ago. One of the functions I'm using a lot these days is favorites. And I have pre-programmed all of my daughter's favorite things in here, so that maybe she doesn't have to go through the menu items to find her recipes and what she wants to cook. They're all just right here under favorites, and she can just put her food in there, hit her favorite item, and go. So it makes it easier. And then this week, I found it handy because my niece came to stay with us while I was I got to go to Appliance Park when I was at Appliance Park with Alex doing some webinar stuff. And I said, now you know how to turn this on, right? And she's like, I'll just use the oven. And I was like, you have to empty it out if you want to. Use this. And she said, I don't know how to. So we came up with this. It's Wi-Fi connected now. It's really simple. I said, if you call me and tell me what you want to cook, and instead of her having to scroll through the menu, I could program it, tell her to put the food in, and she hit start. So I wasn't here, but I can program what they want to cook, and then all she has to do is hit start. So it makes it really easy for the whole family.
And like you could even kind of monitor that as she gets older and she wants to put something in the oven, and then 4 hours later she's still on Instagram or something and the oven's on, and you can be like, time to turn that off, right?
Yeah. I have had that happen, because it used to be that you set a time for bake, and it used to be that you set a time for toast. But now they changed it to work more like a toaster oven. So when you turn it on, it stays on. It goes off after a certain period of time. I think it's like 2 or 3 hours. I can't remember. But my husband, getting used to it, was used to the old way. So on days when he would take Etta to school, he would put something in here to toast for her, a bagel or toast or whatever, close it up and hit start, pull it out, close it up, and then start doing stuff, and they would leave, and I would see like an hour later it was still on, so I would be able to turn it off from my phone. So
that's very helpful.
Very helpful.
All right. Well, Corwin, are there any questions out there for us right now, or?
Well, we've been having a lot of fun in the chat while you guys have been conversing. But really, it's a lot of, the lucky people who have a 5-in-1 oven can't stop raving about it, and then the rest of us are just really jealous.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like there are any questions, but if anybody has anything you want to ask Michelle or John, now is the time. See if anything comes up. I don't think so. You were so thorough. This was so fun. Oh my goodness. The new baby.
I love him.
Oh my gosh.
This is Daryl. We got him last night.
Oh, he's perfect.
He's so cute.
He's a Dog de Bordeaux.
He's so cute. I'm their mascot.
He was doing dishwasher training this morning for us.
Awesome.
8 weeks old, John?
Yeah.
8 weeks old and already a star.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy he woke up.
He just had breakfast and he's hiccuping, so.
Oh, do we have like a cute puppy competition going on between Alex's new dog and your new dog, Chef John?
There's a lot of that going around. Yeah. Yeah. But guys, I want to thank everybody for being on the call today. Michelle, especially you. Again, I owe you so much. I owe you probably 30 dinners every time you come to Chicago. So thank you. Thank you for being here and helping us all, get up to speed on our new 5-in-1 oven.
Thanks, John. Listen, I am so privileged to get to spend the time with you guys. You're so far away and we miss you so much. So I love that you asked me to do this with you today, and it's good to see you too. So thank you.
It was so much fun.
Thanks everyone for joining. I love seeing all the names pop up in all the notes. I'm going to have to go back and read them after we get done. So
thank you guys so much. It was great.
Thanks.
Have a good day, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
I'm going to eat lunch.
Bye, Daryl.
Bye, Daryl.